Welcome, yogis. Thank you for joining me today and sharing your practice with me. My wrist is still really bothering me, so we are not going to be doing any arm balances or chaturangas or anything with weight-bearing poses on your arms. So instead, we are going to be doing a boatload of balance. And yes, we might do boat as well. So let's go ahead and get started in a standing position at the front of your mat. You can bring your hands to your heart center in prayer, or you can open up the hands and reach the fingertips down towards the ground, palms facing forward. Whatever you decide to do with the hands, go ahead and close the eyes to start. And we'll begin with a few deep breaths. As we breathe and prepare, I want to encourage you to have some blocks ready, if that's helpful. If you really struggle with your balance, you can even bring a chair close to your mat. And then the firmer the surface that you're standing on, the easier it will be to balance. So if you're on carpet, maybe consider moving to hardwood floor or tile. Come back to your breath, lengthening the breath, and start to draw the body up and away from the ground. So beginning with your feet, pick the toes up off the ground, spread them as wide as you can, and then bring them back down, little at a time, one toe at a time if possible. And you might notice that because our eyes are closed in mountain, you're already challenging your balance because you have to feel the ground underneath you rather than relying on your eyesight. From the feet, start to draw the tops of the shins up towards the knees. And then again, drawing the kneecaps up, firming the thighs, creating a foundation for this standing pose. And then on your next exhale, I want you to really squeeze the belly button to the spine. Maybe draw the tailbone long towards the ground, and notice how quickly you feel more stable in this first pose. If you are struggling at all today, come back to the strength of your core. If you're not engaging the core, you will definitely struggle with your balance. So if you feel wobbly, come back to that space and engage, pulling the belly button towards the spine, and that will automatically help you find a little bit more stability. Making our way farther up the body, go ahead and start to roll the shoulders away from the ears. Draw the ears back so that the ears are stacked on top of the shoulders, and reach through the crown of the head. Because we live in a society where we are hunched over a computer all the time, we have a tendency to let the ears shift forward out in front of the shoulders, which is not great for your neck. So to counteract that, tuck the chin slightly, push the back of the head into an imaginary wall, or you can pretend you're in the car and you're pushing your head into the back of the car seat so that the shoulders and the ears are stacked one right on top of the other. Take a few more breaths in mountain pose, just to feel the stability that you've created by working your way up from the ground, out through the crown of the head. Even though this may be a easy pose for some of us, there's always room to make it challenging by focusing on creating strength and stability, by focusing on all the little muscles that work together to keep you upright. Take one more breath. And then go ahead and open up the eyes. Bring the hands down to your sides, and on an inhale, sweep the hands up and over. Exhale, as you bring them back to your heart, squeeze the belly button towards the spine, re-engaging the core. Inhale. Exhale, pretend like there's a string between the belly button and your hands, and it's your belly button that is reeling in like a fishing line the hands to your heart. One more time. Good. On your next inhale, sit back into a gentle chair pose. So if this is a little intense on your shoulders, you can bring the hands parallel with the ground or even bring them to your heart. But continue to sink down and back, warming up the thighs. And as you start to feel warmer, you can engage more of the back muscles by lifting the hands higher to the sky. But when you make that transition, make sure that the abs are still in nice and tight so that you don't overarch the back in order to reach to the sky. We want to keep the spine neutral as we extend and draw the shoulder blades down the back. Take another breath here, and then exhale, fold forward for our first forward fold. You can keep the knees slightly bent. And again, as you start to get warmer, then you can start to straighten. On your next inhale, come up to half lift. Exhale, round back down. Inhale, hip sink down and back, chair pose. And then exhale, come to standing. Again, inhale, hands to the sky. Hips sink down and back, squeeze the knees and the ankles together. And on an exhale, fold forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. Inhale, chair pose. And then we're gonna add a challenge here. Instead of just standing up to upright, we're gonna stand up onto our toes, try to maintain your balance, and then release the heels back down. Inhale, chair. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. Inhale, chair pose. And then come up. Try to find your balance. Engage the abs, squeeze the ankles together, and then release the heels back down. Inhale, chair. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. Inhale, come back up to chair. And this time, let's hold and try to pick up one foot. Squeeze the knees together. If you do need to hold on to a wall or a chair, do your best to just use one fingertip, maybe two, rather than holding on and gripping tight. Go ahead and release that foot back down to the ground. And then let's try the other side. Continue to squeeze with the abs so that you're not overarching the back, or again, you can keep the hands parallel with the ground. One more breath. Release that foot, chair pose, and then rise up to standing, coming up onto the balls of the feet, holding for a moment, and then release back down. Inhale, chair. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, chair pose. Find your balance again. And then this time we're going to kick that foot behind you for warrior three. Now if this is too much for you, you can keep the body nice and flat, but at more of an angle on the axis of the bottom leg. Or you can come more parallel with the ground and bring the hands out to the sides or even behind you. Or you can grab your blocks and support yourself on the ground, focusing on lifting the back leg. Wherever you are, I want you to feel that strength in the core, creating that long line of energy from the crown of the head out through the heel of the floating leg. Gently come back together, stepping, sinking into chair, and then find your balance on the other side. Picking up that foot, and then gently kicking forward into warrior three. Go ahead and gently come back, chair pose, and then standing up, balancing on the balls of the feet, and then releasing back to the heels. Inhale, chair pose. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back, and release. Inhale to chair. Find your balance. And then kicking the foot back, warrior three just for a moment, and then gently step to warrior one. Hips and shoulders square towards the front edge of your mat or the short edge of your mat. Big inhale, exhale, sink a little bit deeper. Reach through the fingers, strong arms, actively shooting energy out through the fingertips. And then go ahead and shift the weight forward. Bring the hands behind so you're creating a launching pad out from the back heel through the crown of the head, one flat line down the body. When you're ready, come up onto the ball of the back foot and gently step forward. See if you can find your warrior three again. And then step together, chair pose. Find your balance on the other side, picking up that foot and then kicking it back. Finding warrior three, staying here just for a moment, and then soften the knee of the front leg and gently step back. Warrior one. Big deep breaths here. Settling forward into warrior one. Making sure that your front knee is right on top of the ankle. One more breath here. And then we'll shift forward slightly, hands come behind. Create that launching pad once again, reaching through the crown of the head, lengthen the back of the neck. And then when you're ready, come up onto the ball of the back foot and gently step forward into warrior three. It's okay if you bobble. We're gonna probably bobble a lot today since we're doing so much. Go ahead and step together. Find chair pose. Big inhale. Exhale, come to standing, balancing up on the balls of the feet, and then gently release. Awesome. Inhale, hips sink down and back. Chair pose. Exhale, Fold forward. Inhale, flat back. Maybe you're starting to notice that your fingertips can come a little bit closer to the ground. You're starting to warm up the backs of the legs. On your next exhale, fold forward again. Inhale, chair pose. Find your balance on one side and slowly extend warrior three. Pausing for a moment and then bending the front knee and gently stepping back, warrior one. On your next exhale, let's go ahead and open up warrior two and try to create a flat line along this plane. So your knee has a tendency to roll in, bring it back, make sure it's right on top of the ankle. Your back has a tendency to overarch, so squeeze the abs, tuck the tailbone under, lengthen the lower part of the back, and then make sure the arms are shooting in opposite directions and not some kind of kitty wampus angle. Bring your gaze right beyond the middle finger of that front hand. And slow the breath. Let the shoulders drop away from the ears. And then on your next exhale, reverse your warrior. Lengthen the front leg on your next exhale. And then inhale, come back up to upright, and we're gonna come into triangle pose. So back part of your hips shifts to the back edge of the mat. Reach forward with the front hand, and then at the last moment, tilt the hands. You can put a teeny bit of pressure on your shin, or you can grab a block, or if you can touch the ground, that's great. Just don't put any pressure on your knee. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my block. And again, if you're using the block, try not to dump all of your weight into the block. It's just there as a tool, not as a crutch. On your next exhale, come back up to upright, sink into warrior two, and then square the hips, warrior one. Find that launching pad again. And then when you're ready, stepping into warrior three. And then feet come together, sink back, chair pose. Big inhale, and then find your balance on the other side. Extend warrior three first. And then slow with control, finding warrior one, squaring the hips, squaring the heart to the front of your mat. And then on your next exhale, open up, warrior two. And if you need to, adjust the feet like I am, so that the heel of that front leg intersects with the arch of the back foot. Take a few breaths here to calm. Find peace in this strong pose. And then on your next exhale, reverse. Big inhale to open up the top side. Exhale, extend the front leg. And then come back up to upright, shift the hips back, extend that front hand, and then tilt. Really use the strength of your core to support you in triangle pose, rather than relying on your block, or your shin, or the floor. And if you need to, you can always shorten your stance. And again, you can make this a little bit more focused on opening up the sides if you come a little higher up. We have a tendency to collapse that side in order to reach the ground, and we want to keep both sides nice and long. On the next exhale, come back up to upright and sink into that front leg, warrior two. Go ahead and square the hips, square the shoulders, warrior one. And then shift forward, finding your launching pad, coming up onto the ball of the back foot and gently stepping forward. Warrior three, just for a moment. And then both feet come to the ground, hands to the sky, hips sink down and back, chair pose. On your exhale, rise up. Find your balance on the balls of your feet and then release back down. Inhale, chair. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. And then inhale, rise back up to chair pose. Find your balance. And then extend into warrior three. Just for a moment. Soften the knee, step back. Warrior one. Big inhale. Exhale, open up. Warrior two. On your next exhale, reverse your warrior. Big inhale. And then when you exhale, we're going to roll all the way forward, coming into half moon. So if you need to, grab your block. And if you need to set up that hand and then lift the leg, that's fine as well. So your goal here is to stack the hips, one hip on top of the other, stack the shoulders, and then that back leg is parallel with the ground. It doesn't need to be higher, it doesn't need to be lower. Try not to put too much weight in that bottom hand. See if you can get a little bit of air. And then on your next exhale, bend that front knee, gently step back, warrior two, big inhale. Exhale, square the hips, warrior one. And then create your launch pad, roll up onto the ball of the back foot, and gently step forward, coming into warrior three. Definitely a challenging balance class. Step together, hips sink down and back. You're either going to get more confident or you're going to get more tired, and your balance will adjust accordingly. Go ahead and find your balance on the other side. Kick that foot behind, warrior three. Softly bend the front leg and step back, warrior one. Inhale. Exhale, open up, warrior two. Another big inhale. Exhale, reverse. And now we're going to transition all the way forward into half moon. So however you need to get there, go ahead and slowly make that shift. Try to use as much control as you can. For those of you who are a little bit more advanced, you can even take your gaze away from the ground and look to the wall and try to make that transition without your drishti point on the ground. It's very, very difficult. One more breath here, and then soften the knee of the standing leg. Gently step back, warrior two. Rolling the hips and the shoulder forward, warrior one. Creating your launch pad, reaching through the crown of the head, coming up onto the ball of the back foot, and gently stepping forward, warrior three. Go ahead and bring both feet together, hips sink down and back, chair pose. On your exhale, rising up, finding a little air with the heels, and release back down. Inhale. Hips sink down and back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, folding again. Inhale, coming to chair. Find your balance and kick back, warrior three. Remember, you have the easier versions of warrior three, so please adjust and take the pose however it suits your body. Soften the knee and gently step back, warrior one. Big inhale. Exhale, sink the hips down and back, down and forward a little bit. On your next inhale, extend the front leg, and exhale, fold out over that front leg, coming into pyramid pose. If you need to, you can walk that back foot in a little farther. Inhale, flatten the back. Notice how the stretch changes in the back of the leg when you do that. And then maybe walk the hands forward and roll the nose towards the shin. So you're still keeping all of the length in the spine by reaching down the leg rather than curling and chucking the chin in order to connect the nose with the knee. Now, if you used your block on the other side, we're going to come into revolve triangle, so you might want to grab your block again. To make it easier, block on the inside of the foot. To make it harder, block on the outside of the foot. Inhale to a flat back. Your free hand is going to come right on the tailbone. And I want you to flatten out the tailbone so that both hips are equidistant to the ground. And maybe you stay here, or maybe you continue to roll open, coming into revolve triangle. Really squeezing the top shoulder blade down the back in order to create space to reach the fingertips to the sky. One more breath. And release that hand to the ground. Soften the knee of the front leg and come back up to warrior one. Go ahead and shift forward, create your launching pad, and then step into warrior three, finding balance, and then stepping together and sinking back, chair pose. Opposite side, pick up your foot and kick it back, warrior three, taking the breath, and then on an exhale, hips sink back, back foot lands gently, and sink forward into your warrior one. Big inhale, and extend the front leg. Shift your hips slightly back, hands come forward, and then rest the hands on the ground. Now take a moment to think about your hips, and I want you to take the hip of this front leg and pull it back to the back of your mat. Plug it into the hip socket. And the hip of the back leg is going to gently pull forward so that you're squaring your hips as much as you can to the front of the mat. Again, you can play with folding forward, or maybe giving yourself a little bit more length in the spine by keeping the spine parallel with the ground. If you have a tendency to hyperextend, keep a teeny tiny bend in the knee. And then let's go ahead and find revolve triangle on the other side. So grab your block if that's helpful for you. And start to square the hips. Your free hand comes right onto the tailbone to make sure that you're remembering to square them. And then maybe bring that hand towards the sky. And don't forget to breathe. I know it's a very challenging class, even without the Chaturangas. One more breath. And go ahead and release that hand to the ground. Soften the knee of the front leg and rise up. warrior one. When you're ready, shift forward, find that launching pad, and then step into warrior three. And it's okay if one side is significantly stronger than the other. That's very normal. Go ahead and bring both feet together and sink the hips down and back. In yoga, although we strive to be symmetrical, we recognize that most people are not symmetrical. So it's normal to have a strong side and a weak side, as long as we continue to work the weak side, trying to bring it in alignment with the strong side. On your next exhale, stand up, coming onto the balls of the feet, and then release back down. Inhale, chair. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, chair. This will be our last round. You're almost done. Find your balance on one side and step warrior three. If you're getting really tired, you can just step back straight to warrior one and skip the balance. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and join you now. Big inhale, exhale, sink a little bit deeper into warrior one. Inhale, lengthen the front leg, and let's fold out over the front leg for pyramid pose again. And then from pyramid pose, this time I want you to roll up onto the ball of the back foot, maybe a tiny bend in the front knee, and reach forward with the opposite hand so that you're coming about a foot in front of the big toe, and then gently step. We're gonna come into revolved half moon. So starting with that free hand right on the tailbone, think about squaring the hips. Think about engaging the hamstring in order to lift that leg parallel with the ground. And then if you feel comfortable, roll the shoulder open, reach the hand towards the sky, squeeze that shoulder blade. Strength in the back will help you create openness in the front. Gently release that hand to the ground, soften the knee, and step back, warrior one. Big inhale. Exhale, shift forward, finding your launching pad, and on the next exhale, stepping into warrior three. Try to keep that balance, and then both feet come together, hands to the sky, chair pose. One more side. Find your balance and kick that foot back. Warrior three. Soften the knee when you're ready and step back, warrior one. No rush here. Take a breath, sink deep into the hips, square your hips towards the front. Maybe relax the shoulders away from the ears if you started to let the shoulders creep up. And then on your next exhale, extend the front leg, fold forward. From here, again, pick up the back heel so that you're on the ball of the back foot. And then start to reach forward with the opposite hand. And when you're ready, stepping forward, preparing for revolved half moon. Squaring your hips first. Opening up the back of the standing leg and strengthening the back of the floating leg, using the hamstring and the glute to lift. And then if you want, add the hand and maybe bring the gaze towards the wall or towards the sky. Engaging your core to create the twist. And meanwhile, not forgetting about the floating leg. Continue to lift the floating leg. This is a very, very challenging balance. And then release the hand to the ground, soften the knee of the standing leg, and step back, rising up, warrior one. Big inhale, Exhale. Shift forward, long line of energy from the crown of the head, out through the heel, stepping forward, warrior three. And then both feet come to the ground, hands to the sky. Stand all the way up, balancing on the toes last time, and then release the heels back down to the ground. Now that you've hopefully worked up quite a sweat, let's go ahead and start to slowly come back down. Bring the breath a little bit calmer. We're not done with balance, but we're gonna just slow things down a little bit. So go ahead and take this time to find tree pose. And we're gonna do a little bit of meditation. So the focus here in tree pose is not how crazy hard you can make it, it's how perfectly still you can hold it. So if you struggle with balance, keep the foot on the calf or maybe even the big toe on the ground. If you feel a little bit more confident, you can bring the sole of the foot into the inner thigh. Either way, make sure there's no pressure or weight on the knee. We don't want to put any pressure on the knee, pushing it in a direction that it should not be going. So once you have found your version of the pose that you would like to hold, which may not be this more challenging one for me, I want you to go ahead and find a little bit of calm and stillness and just focus on your breath. If you have the hands together with your thumbs pressing into your sternum, can you feel your heartbeat? Can you feel your breath? How does the breath feel coming in and out of the nose? What does it feel like on the skin of the nostrils? Is it hot? Is it cool? Can you feel your breath all the way on your fingertips if your hands are in prayer? What does it feel like there? Does it feel like a gentle breeze or like a forceful wind? Does it feel hot or cold on the fingertips? Start to notice any sensations on your skin. Maybe you can feel a few droplets of sweat dripping down your skin. Maybe you can feel some hair raised in certain parts of your body. Maybe there is a single strand of hair that didn't get in your ponytail that's tickling you somewhere. Just notice all these little sensations. Now, as quietly and calmly as you can, gently switch sides. And again, the focus here is on stillness, not how advanced you can make the pose. So settle into tree on the other side and come back to your breath. Now that you've had a few moments to calm your system a little, can you feel the breath in different parts of your body? Maybe you can feel more of the breath in your belly, in your diaphragm, not just in your chest. Maybe you can notice the strength of the exhales because of the natural contraction of the belly. Maybe you notice how every time you exhale, you find a moment of extreme stability in tree because everything's engaged. How does the breath feel in the back of the throat? If you've been practicing that Ujjayi style of breathing, do you feel a lot of heat? Do you feel too much heat? If so, you can always exhale with a sigh and release some of that heat from the body. Or do you notice that the heat is what helps you keep some of your focus? Go ahead and very gently release that foot back down to the ground. And then go ahead and walk the feet so that they are right underneath the hips. Inhale. Exhale. Dive forward. Keep the knees bent. And grab hold of either the big toes, or if it feels good, to step onto the palms. And maybe give yourself a few wrist massage, even though we didn't do anything on our wrists. If your wrist is bothering you like mine is, just giving yourself a little massage feels so good. And then wherever you are, start to lengthen the legs, straightening them out. Inhale, flatten the back as much as you can, and then exhale, fold a little deeper. And this should feel really good after all of the chair poses. Even though we are engaging our core as much as we can in chair, it's still a very challenging back exercise, especially when you bring the hands over the head. So by folding forward, we're getting not only the length in the hamstrings, but you also get a great opportunity to stretch out the lower back. Gently release your hold on the toes or bring the hands back out from underneath the feet. Walk the soles of the feet back together and then shift into a floating chair pose. So the heels are off the ground, your weight is in your toes, stretching out the toes. And maybe bring the hands parallel with the ground or maybe towards the sky. Continue to squeeze the knees together, squeeze the ankles together, and then gently release the hands slightly behind you. We're going to come to a seated position and then come right into boat pose. Don't want to short you on any opportunities for balance, even in a seated position. So in boat pose, you have a few options. You can keep the legs straight like I am, parallel to the ground, or you can even keep the toes on the ground. But we're going to move through boat. This can be very challenging, so pick the version of your legs that works for you. Keeping the legs as still as possible, we're going to roll down one vertebrae at a time. Nice and slow, just the upper body is moving. Tap the shoulders on the ground and then roll back up. Once you come back up to upright, we'll do that one more time. Nice and slow, roll down. Massaging the spine one vertebrae at a time. And then rise back up. Good, release. Bring the knees to your heart. Give yourself a squeeze. Give yourself a hug. And then we're gonna do that same thing, but this time the upper body stays perfectly still and the lower body moves. So engaging the core, pulling the shoulders away from the ears, reaching through the crown of the head. Gently drop the feet, tap the heels, rise back up. One more time, drop, tap, rise back up. And release, bring your knees to the chest, give yourself a little break. And then one more time, this time both the upper body and the lower body moves at the same time. So find boat pose, and then nice and slow, with control, upper body and lower body comes down, tap the shoulders, tap the heels, rise back up. And again, roll down, tap, and rise back up. Release, give yourself one final hug. And then we're gonna roll down and stay on the ground. So bring the feet out just a little bit farther from your hips and roll down one vertebrae at a time. Nice and slow. And then once the shoulders and the head connects with the ground, go ahead and walk the feet in and we will find bridge pose. So lift the hips up off the ground, push the hips high towards the sky. Notice that opening in the hip flexors now, especially after boat pose. This should feel really good. A really nice, relaxing stretch in the hip flexors. One more breath. And slowly roll down, one vertebrae at a time. Walk the feet out to the outside edges of your mat and go ahead and tick-tock the feet, or excuse me, the knees, side to side, just neutralizing the back, but without curving the spine. Come back up to upright with the knees, walk the feet back in, heels towards the hips, and roll up to bridge one more time. This time adding a little bit of balance. I know we're not done. Pick up one foot and reach that foot as high to the sky as you can. On your next exhale, lift the hips a little higher. One more time, lift the hips a little higher. And then release that foot to the ground. Go ahead and find your balance, other side. Extend the leg, reach through the toes. Take a breath. And on your next exhale, lift a little higher. Again, pick your hips up a little higher. And last time, an inch higher. And then release the foot to the ground. Exhale, roll down one vertebrae at a time. So again, feet come wide. Go ahead and tick-tock the knees. One side, and then to the other side. And then come back to center. And this time, if you have a block, go ahead and grab your block. If you do not have a block, you can just take a regular bridge. Otherwise, if you have a block on the lowest to the medium setting, go ahead and place the block underneath your lower back and then extend the legs out. So you're getting really deep into the hip flexors of the hips. A little back bend here, but really the focus is on opening up the hip flexors. That's why you want to stay on either the lowest or the medium setting. If you go on the highest setting, not only is it going to be less comfortable, but you'll be creating more of a back bend rather than focusing on opening up the hips. Good, go ahead and walk the feet back in. And if you're comfortable with shoulder stand, we're going to take shoulder stand next. If you are not comfortable with shoulder stand, you can keep the block right under your hips and just reach the feet straight to the sky. So this is a great inversion without any pressure or uncomfortability in your neck that you might experience with shoulder stand. If you are taking shoulder stand, make sure that the abs are strongly engaged and the hands should be right at the bottom of your back, as though you were about to slide your hands into the back pockets of your jeans. And as we stay here for a few breaths, if you're in shoulder stand, make sure that you're not looking around side to side. The gaze should be straight to the sky. You can check out your fabulous pedicure. And to protect the neck, I want you to pretend like you're playing one of those arcade games where you have the claw and you're trying to pick up a teddy bear or a toy. Pretend that claw is around your head and pulling the whole head slightly away from the shoulders. So you still have the natural curve of your neck. The neck has not collapsed into the ground, but you're just creating a little bit of space in the neck so that your shoulders aren't hunched up around the ears. And we're going to stay here for 5 more breaths. So if you need to come down into the easier version with the hips on a block or even the hips on the ground, you can go ahead and make that adjustment. And if you are supporting yourself and it is uncomfortable on your wrists, you can always try a more challenging, unsupported shoulder stand with the hands on the ground. One more breath. And wherever you are, use your abs to slowly, slowly roll down one vertebrae at a time. And then once the hips connect with the ground, continue to lower the legs and we'll come into fish pose. So once the heels connect with the ground, grab hold of the backs of the thighs and push into the elbows, which will lift your chest up off the ground. And then look behind you and maybe you have the space to gently tap your head on the ground. But there's no more than 10% of your body weight on the crown of your head. The weight is in your elbows. The more you can open up the heart, the more you can open up the throat, the more you'll be able to maybe tap the head on the ground. But make sure that you're not kinking the back of the neck or opening the throat, not just throwing the head back. Go ahead and gently release, rolling back down onto the ground, and then bring your knees towards your chest. Go ahead and give yourself a few rocks side to side. And then come back to center, squeeze the knees towards your chest, and then release one leg, keeping the opposite knee connected to the chest. That bottom leg, reach out through the heel and try to press the back of the knee into the ground so that extended leg is still active. Go ahead and take the bent knee and bring the thigh to the outside edge of your rib cage and then grab a hold of the sole of the foot and find half happy baby. And because you're in half of the pose, see if you can maybe get that knee closer to the ground than normal. Doesn't have to touch. You just might notice that you have a little bit more range of motion. Gently release, bend the knee, and then take that bent knee all the way across the body, coming into a gentle twist as we cool down and head towards Shavasana. While in this twist, continue to notice the breath. And on the exhale, continue to notice the contraction of the core. And maybe with each breath, you notice that you can twist a little bit farther without any actual effort, just by using the breath and just by using the support of the contraction of the core. Gently come back to center. Both knees come towards your chest. Again, maybe you give yourself a rock side to side, or maybe do a couple of circles with your knees to massage the lower back. And then both knees come back towards the chest. Opposite knee stays in towards the chest this time. Extend the other leg out. Reach through the heel. You'll maybe notice a stretch in that hip flexor again, although it may not be as deep of a stretch of what you experienced when we were in that supported bridge pose. From here, go ahead and grab the outside edge of the foot again for half happy baby. Maybe playing a little bit with that hip, giving it a couple of hip circles if that feels good before you start to draw the knee deeper towards the ground. One more breath and bring the knee back towards the chest, gently crossing it over, twisting to the other direction. Using those same exhales to support and deepen the twist. One more breath in your twist. And come back to center. Both knees again towards your chest. And this time, both knees come wide, grab a hold of the soles of the feet, and find happy baby. Maybe give yourself a very gentle, very slow rock, almost tapping the knee, and then to the other side. No jarring movement here, just slow and controlled. One more time. And then come back to center. Take another breath in the center. And then release and extend the legs all the way out. Coming into your final resting pose, Shavasana. Go ahead and take some time to get comfortable. And then once you feel that you're in a comfortable reclined position, close your eyes. And we'll take a few moments to do a body scan, starting with the toes. Just notice if there's anything extra that you can relax. Relax the heels, the ankles, maybe the ankles roll out. Release any tension in your legs. Your quads do just an enormous amount of work, especially with all of those chair poses. So really try to release. On your next exhale, notice the belly button sinks naturally to the spine without any contraction. Just the weight of gravity is pulling and relaxing the abdomen. Release the chest. Feel the space for the breath. Notice the length in the neck. Notice the softness of the arms and maybe the gentle curl of the fingertips. And then lastly, notice the relaxation on your face. If you have a tendency to hold any stress or strain, any worry lines, go ahead and release. Let the eyes feel heavy in their sockets. Let the jaw feel slack. And feel like the skin is just relaxing and almost melting towards the ground, so that you're not holding any tension, any worry, no furrow of the brows. As always, feel free to stay here as long as you have time for. Enjoy the peace and quiet. Enjoy the recovery. But if you are ready to slowly reawaken, start with the extremities. Stretch the fingertips and the toes away from each other. And then maybe give yourself some ankle and wrist circles. And then walk the feet in. Fingertips pointed towards the sky, and then tick-tock the knees and the fingertips in opposite directions. And then you can either rock over onto one side and push yourself up to a seated position, or if you'd like, you can take a few gentle rocks up and down the spine until you have enough momentum to come up to seated. Go ahead and find whatever comfortable seated pose serves you in this moment. And then take a moment to thank yourself for showing up today. And I, of course, thank you for sharing your practice with me. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.